This video has 1.8 million views off of a 100,000 subscriber YouTube channel called The Fear of Being Average. So clearly this resonated with a lot of people. So let's get into it. Let's talk about it.
Our entire lives, we've been taught that we needed to be exceptional. That average was something we needed to escape. That if we didn't do something remarkable with our lives, we failed.
I mean, that's true. Since I was a little kid, I had to be the tallest, I had to be the most successful, I had to be the fastest, I had to be the strongest in my entire family. That was my goal. I never thought I could be just like my brothers. I thought I had to be the best member of my family. Like getting tens of thousands of dollars, not enough. I need to be a millionaire no matter what, and nobody can stop me because that's what was implanted into my brain. And I mean, it worked out for me, I guess, but like it doesn't really work out for a lot of people. You know, it's hard. The world is so hard to succeed in. And a lot of our fathers and grandfathers don't understand that because, you know, back in the day, 40 years ago, a minimum wage job was enough to support your wife and your kids. These days, it's pretty much a dual income house exclusively to fucking survive. It is so hard to succeed in today's economy. It's awful. Getting careers harder because AI is taking everything, and not to mention a lot of people are getting lazier, and politics is driving everybody nuts.
But no one ever stopped to define what average actually meant. A stable job, a partner, a house, 2 kids. Because if that's average, why were we ever taught to fear it? The truth is, none of those things were ever the problem. Everything you've been told about being average has been a lie.
Really?
Average was never about the life you live. It was always about something much deeper than that.
Okay.
So what have you learned from all your travels? What do you take away from this?
Be open to experience, be willing to try new things.
I thought that was Jeffrey Epstein.
Don't be afraid to wander, don't be afraid to eat a bad meal. You know, if you don't risk the bad meal, you'll never get the magical one.
Sure,
Anthony
that's
Bourdain
fair.
knew what an average life
Great quote.
really was, and why we're so afraid of it. Before becoming a famous author and TV show personality, Bourdain spent 2 decades working in professional kitchens. He graduated in 1978 from the Culinary Institute of America, and in his early career, Bourdain worked as a line cook and sous chef at restaurants across New York. And all the while, he carried a different dream: to be a writer. He wrote his first book, Bone and Throat, which received lackluster reviews.
That's crazy. Me and your mom have a story called Bone and Throat as well.
And his second book, Gone Bamboo, also shared the same fate. Both books sold poorly, and his writing career became stagnant. You see, Bourdain was 42. He was beginning to accept that the dream he once had wasn't for him.
Speaking of sold poorly, a scenario just popped into my head. So y'all know when black people were being sold into slavery? What do you think felt worse, being bought or not being bought? Because like, can you imagine being the black guy that nobody wanted to buy? You know what I mean? It's kind of like a women who started OnlyFans and they charge $10 to see their butthole and then nobody pays for it. Like, that's gotta be humiliating. But on one side, it's like a relief because nobody saw it. But in the same vein, it's also like nobody wanted to see that shit. That has to be a bittering pill to swallow. You know what I'm saying?
So he turned his focus back to cooking. He worked his way up to executive chef at Brasserie Les Halles, a respected French restaurant in Manhattan. From an outside perspective, Bourdain made it. He had a great job, stability, and all the money he needed to live a comfortable life. A life many people would be grateful for. So why not just stop there? Why not lean into the life he fought so hard to build? And that's exactly what most people do. As time passes, they get set in their ways. They convince themselves that the life they built is enough. They find a job that pays the bills. It's not perfect, but it's fine. A partner they love deeply, someone to come home to. They move into a place that feels just big enough, buy furniture they'll keep for years, and fall into routines that make life easier. Nothing is wrong. And that's the danger.
In my opinion, I think a boring life is what people should really strive to have. Because if you're bored, that means that you found peace. I think a lot of people seek too much entertainment these days. The constant need to be entertained really plagues people and, more importantly, drains their wallet. What I really enjoy is my life is very simple. I wake up, I eat the same meal that I eat every day. Sometimes we switch it up, maybe like once every couple weeks, maybe. I just walk my dog, go live, finish going live, go to the gym, walk my dog again, maybe watch a TV show, maybe cuddle, and then just relax. You know, I don't need to go to the clubs. I don't need to spend all this money on alcohol and drugs. I don't need to go see a movie in the theaters. I don't need to go do all this shit outside. I just like having a boring, peaceful life. You know, that's the only thing that matters to me. Maybe I'll play a video game, but like, I feel like, you know, going into Germany, going to Japan, going to Sweden, like these people who go on trips nonstop are usually doing it because the life they live in their house, they're not happy with, you know? And also people who get pets and then go on trips are vile human beings. Like where they get like 4 cats and a dog and then they're out of the house more than like half the year. It's like, what are you doing, bro? Why did you get a cat? I don't know. I feel like the constant need to be entertained is far too much these days.
This is where most people misunderstand what an average life actually is. Because you can wake up every morning, go to work, come home, build a family, live quietly, and still live a deeply fulfilled life.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Millions of people dream of exactly that, but it feels like this generation is convinced that stability isn't enough. Social media brainwashed us into believing that we should chase unrealistic perceptions of money and materialism, and that if we didn't have this checklist of things done before a certain age, you're falling behind.
Oh my God, bro. When I was 28 and I saw these 16-year-old streamers making multi-millions of dollars, bro, I started crashing the fuck out. I'm not gonna lie. And I'm sure a lot of people hate Rakai for the exact same reason, because his entire gimmick is being a loud, unlikable, obnoxious douchebag, and he makes multi-million levels of dollars doing it. But yeah, no, I mean, I agree. The youth does put extremely unrealistic expectations and a burden on their shoulder that 99.9% of them will never succeed, because the world right now is designed for you to struggle. It is not designed for you to succeed.
But an extraordinary
So sometimes, and it's true, doing the best you can is enough. If you can look yourself in the mirror and say, I am honestly trying, that is honestly enough.
life isn't defined by starting a $100 million business or becoming an athlete or a celebrity, because average was never about structure.
Yeah.
It was never about a 9-to-5 or a house or a routine. It was always about your mentality. A stable life isn't the problem. The problem is never challenging yourself within it.
Sure.
Because somewhere along the way, comfort quietly replaces courage. You stop trying new things. Stop doing things you're bad at. You only ever choose the options you know will work out. And over time, you begin to resent the very life you once prayed for. And slowly, days start to feel the same. They turn into weeks, and weeks into years. And one day you wake up and realize something terrifying. You never took a single real risk.
Can I tell you the God's honest truth? One of the biggest things that I see so many people doing is getting into comfort groups that enable other people to never fucking try. And you'll see this a lot in Discord friend groups, where it's a group of like 10 unemployed dudes and they all play the same like online video game. And because they're all unemployed, there's like this crab bucket mentality where they're going to make sure everybody else is just as unemployed as they are. And they sit in their chair and they continue to fail and they continue to rot by playing 14 hours of games every single day. Playing games every day is okay if you're playing for like 2 to 3 hours, but 14-hour gaming sessions every single fucking day, that is how you ruin your life. You really have to limit yourself. You really do.
Never once.
And be careful of the people you surround yourself with, because those are the people you are going to become like. So if you don't admire anyone who's around you, you might want to start looking for new friends.
Stepped outside the routine. Never once asked more of yourself. That's what being average actually is. Anthony Bourdain knew this. He knew that coasting through life doesn't end in failure. It ends in something far more dangerous. A life where you're satisfied, but not fulfilled. And Bourdain knew that if he stayed there long enough, he wouldn't just lose the dream. He'd lose the courage to ever try again. The only way forward was to take the risk. But before he could do that, he had to confront the one thing that stops people from ever doing so. your ego. Ego follows you everywhere. It shapes your decisions, quietly disguising itself as excuses like, "I'm being realistic." And humans are inherently egotistical. We want things to go our way. We want to avoid looking foolish or unprepared, and that's why most people never try anything new. They don't pick up the hobby, never speak up at work, or talk to the stranger across the street, because a rejection or failure feels humiliating. It's easier to protect the image you have of yourself than to risk watching it break. "I didn't have time," "something came up," or "maybe later." Those excuses feel safer than saying, "I tried and I wasn't good enough."
No, it's the truth. I have a lot of buddies who are completely ruining their life because they don't want to take a chance on anything. They'd rather live a completely unfulfilled, far less than optimal life than ever risk anything because comfort does kill people's ability to want to actually try and succeed. Wow, this is a great fucking video. This is reminding me of so many people. Another great bit of advice for all of my young men who are on Discord: be careful of women. And this is the God's honest truth. You will find women to be like a parasite in online social communities who are getting you to do and give them services or goods. And in your mind, you think that they are there because they might like you. They don't. If within the first 2 weeks of meeting a new woman, if you have not begun to date them, it's because they're not interested. Because if they were, you know it, and you would have already shooten your shot. So be very careful of women. And if you're interested in one and you've known them for 2 weeks, immediately just tell them how you feel and ask them out, and you will get your answer. There's no use in wasting your time being kind to someone with the hopes of getting into a relationship that will most likely not ever be fulfilled. So be very careful with that. But also, I see this a lot with jobs, where jobs, they'll treat these employees like shit. They don't really know what else to do. In my opinion, get an online IT job. They're very easy to get right now. They start off low, but they eventually ramp up high. I wouldn't. So, like, for example, I have a buddy, and he worked 12 hours every day for 5 days a week. That's a 60-hour work week. That is a long fucking time. And there was another job where he only had to work 20 hours a week, and it was going to pay 60% of what his current job paid. But he's going to get paid 60% less, working 66% less. And even though, one job is paying him $50,000 a year and the other job is going to pay him $35,000 a year, eventually that other job will build up more and pay more than the other job, but he can't take that risk and cut down on finances for that finite time because that would require a risk. But if you have the ability, oh God, this is such a complex topic. If you have the ability to cut down on hours to give you more free time in your life, that's worth more than everything because you can further your education, you can further your knowledge, you can further your physique, and you can further your looks maxing career, which, by the way, I'm just going to say, looks are everything in today's day and age. You need to be working on looking better in any way, shape, or form because society is skin deep. And if you can look the part, you will be hired for the part. Anyways.
So most people choose the first. They protect their identity in the present, even when it costs them their future. And the tragedy is that ego doesn't stop you from failing. It stops you from ever finding out who you could have been. And this is where Bourdain did something most people never do. You see, he had already failed twice. He had every reason to stop trying. He could have came up with a million excuses.
So a 9 to 5 is bad? No, but a 9 to 5 that leads to nowhere is bad. Always be looking to job swap up. And don't be afraid of taking a pay cut to go to another job that can eventually lead to a pay raise and higher comfort. A lot of people get one 9 to 5 and they stay there forever. I have many buddies who have worked at Wendy's for 10 years who are going nowhere because they're too afraid of getting a pay cut to go work a more convenient, a more comforting job because it pays less, but it will eventually lead more. So be careful of dead end 9 to 5 jobs. Take what you can, but always be looking at a way to upgrade. Never get settled until you know a job can sustain the life that you want to live.
He realized he had grown to become the very type.
And also, job loyalties for the birds. You get yours. Don't give a f about these corporations. They're designed to entrap you. Always be looking for better options when it comes to corporations.
Type of person he once resented. So he picked up the pen again. He wrote an essay called "Don't Eat Before Reading This." Although it was only ever meant to be for the line cooks that he worked with, he did attempt to publish his work. His mom was the one who helped him submit it to the New Yorker, one of the biggest magazine companies at the time. A place you don't submit to unless you're certain you belong. Bourdain wasn't certain, but certainty was the one thing he had already decided to reject. So, he sent it, and after just a few days, he got a call. In classic storytelling, there's a moment in every protagonist's journey where they must overcome something called the ego death, often temporary loss of one's sense of self or personal identity. This is usually in the form of some sort of humiliation, sacrifice, or failure. Regardless, they must overcome this ego death to reach resolution. And we are the protagonists of our own lives. To reach fulfillment, we have to go through this. You have to lose your ego, the version of yourself that needs certainty, that needs to look competent. That's the price of a meaningful life, a small death of your identity.
Understanding that you don't understand anything is a very powerful moment that a lot of people will come to know in their lives. And once you can finally admit that you know way less than you actually think, is the moment that you will finally drop your guard and drop your ego and allow yourself to finally become a good student. And that's so important because a lot of people grow up thinking they know everything, but the quicker you realize that you know nothing, the easier you will be to accept information that's for the better for you. I learned that about 8 or 9 months ago, and I've been trying to better myself, but even still, I know a lot less than I originally thought. And it's a very humbling experience. And allowing yourself to say, "Oh, this guy does know more than me," is very beneficial for you because it will truly allow you to be receptive and grow at rates astronomically higher than previously thought.
Bourdain didn't know.
So basically, come with an empty cup? Abso-fucking-lutely. 100%. 100%. And what I really like to do is if I'm getting a piece of advice, if there's a small part, unless it's completely obvious and it's just retarded, I will sometimes just put my ego to the side and just try someone's advice just to see if maybe I'm getting in my own way. And it doesn't happen often, but when it does work out where I just put my ego to the side, it's a very humbling experience. But I think being a good student is the number one way to be successful, is being able to put your ego aside and just fucking listen.
If the call would change his life, he only knew that staying safe would quietly erase it. And as soon as Bourdain did this, well, the rest is history. Expanding on his article, he went on to write Kitchen Confidential, an unflinching look at the food service industry that became a #1 New York Times bestseller. The book's success propelled him onto television, becoming the host of No Reservations and Parts Unknown, on which he traveled the world sampling different foods and engaging with different cultures. Everything he became traced back to one decision: choosing uncertainty over safety. And Bourdain spread his philosophy to millions, hoping to inspire at least one person to do the same.
That's another great quote that someone in chat said: losing equals learning. Absolutely. You learn infinitely more in defeat than you do in victory. So make sure you understand, even when you fail, take it as an opportunity to learn and grow rather than beating the shit out of yourself. So important.
To embrace the unknown, to try and fail, to be wrong.
And figuring out what you did wrong, take that as a blessing rather than a curse. Nothing's better than having another opportunity to grow. That's what you should do in card games and video games in life. Never take your losses to heart. Use them as an opportunity to grow.
Bourdain never stopped living like this. He was always chasing new experiences, new cultures, finding new ways to escape comfort. One of his quotes that always stuck with me was, "Go somewhere you've never been." It doesn't always have to be about travel, but maybe something as simple as taking a new route to work one day, or trying a new coffee shop. Anything that brings you out of your comfort zone, because ego is what creates the comfort zone, and the comfort zone is where dreams go to die.
My favorite thing to do is whenever I go to a restaurant, I don't order what I usually get. I'll either look at other people's tables and see what looks good, or I'll ask the waitress what they recommend, and I'll go with that. And since then, man, the things that I've tried, always out of my comfort box, but usually 90% of the time, I end up with a great new meal that I would have previously never even thought about trying. And it's nice.
So instead of risking discomfort now, ego offers you a trade. Stay comfortable today, and we'll deal with the consequences later. And those consequences don't show up immediately. they show up years later. It arrives as a sentence you hear one day and can't unhear.
Yep.
If only I try. It's regret. Because what if Bourdain had never sent that article? What if he had given up after his first 2 books flopped? He would end up with the same fate millions of people settle for. An
And
average life.
this is what I want to show you guys that I'm attempting to lead by example. One of the things that I'm doing outside of my comfort zone is there's this national tournament that I'm going to in Atlanta for Riftbound. And normally I just go as a spectator to watch these tournaments because I never really think that I'm good enough. But I actually really started trying in Riftbound to try to get better. And lo and behold, I reached number 26 in North America. Number 26 best player of Riftbound in North America, which is insane. Now I'm at like 44 because I lost a game recently, but I went on a 65 game winning streak over the course of a month. And so now, because of that, I'm not going as a spectator. I'm actually going to go as a competitor to the next national tournament. And I was thinking about going for a best of card, but no, I am attempting to play the best deck, and I'm going to attempt to play it better than everybody else. And I'm going to try to win. Now, I probably won't, but fuck it. I at least want to try to see how it goes. And if I lose, I lose. I don't care. It'll be a nice experience. But if I win, oh, my ego is about to go through the roof, baby.
One filled with regret. And the only way to live a life without regret is to escape the comfort zone. But here's where most people mess up. They think escaping the comfort zone means blowing up their life. It's not. It doesn't mean quitting your job to start a business or leaving everything behind and moving across the world. That's not what Bourdain did either.
You know what getting out of my comfort zone means to me? Getting out of my comfort zone means having a kid. And I know that shit is going to be so fucking hard. And I know I'm barely going to sleep for months if I do ever have a kid. But having a kid has been one of the things that has scared the fuck out of me my entire life. And I used to tell myself I would never do it. But I think I would actually be so good at it. And I really want to try that because I would love to give a child the happy childhood that I never had. And that idea and that concept motivates the fuck out of me. It moves me to my core. And the ability to finally see what a happy childhood looks like for a kid, especially my own kid, you know, that's beautiful. You know, I finally have a woman that I actually trust for the first time in my entire life, which is a crazy feeling. I don't know if that step will ever come. I don't know if it'll ever happen. But man, just know if I ever get to tell my chat that I'm having a fucking kid, I'm going to be the happiest I've ever been. And it's going to be rough, and it's going to be difficult, and it's going to be all-consuming. But the majority of things that are worth doing in life are hard. If everybody could do something, well, then it's not really worth anything. That's why abs are impressive in the gym, because you actually have to work your ass off to get it. If everybody could get abs, nobody would care. But man, that's my number one goal in life right now.
When he sent that essay to the New Yorker, he kept his job. Even when they offered him a contract to write his book, his risk was small. Picked up writing again, even when he was comfortable being a chef, submitting an essay to a place he wasn't sure he belonged. Those aren't dramatic leaps. They're what I call small ego deaths. And this is how you truly create an extraordinary life. Bourdain once said, "I am eager to believe that I am completely wrong about everything."
Yep.
And that one sentence perfectly explains his entire
So
life.
that's a great
Because
quote.
if you're wrong, you're willing to embarrass yourself. You're willing to try. You're willing to embrace discomfort. So try something new. Pick up a new skill. Talk to a stranger. Try a new restaurant. Share your work before it's perfect. Go somewhere unfamiliar without a plan. And this is how you need to live every day, in the present, because this moment is all we have. As humans, we tend to focus so much on the future. In a way, it's a paradox, because we fear an average life so much, but only in hindsight, because we fear discomfort in the present more. So it was never about a 9 to 5 or a routine or even comfort. Those were not the enemies. It was always about letting those things control you.
What a great video. What a absolutely fantastic video. I love videos that really make me think. That was incredible. Bye-bye.